Good morning, dear students. Students, today we are going to finish this lesson, the necklace. Right? Yesterday we have covered first half of this lesson, and today the lesson must be finished. Students, so videos are getting, I think, too long, but you will have to make concentration. Right? If you are getting a proper understanding of the lessons, if you are willing for this, right? So definitely you will have to make yourself ready for that, right? It's I think not possible to have videos in even segments like 5 minutes, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, right? So I am just making this even for first half and the second half, so it will take 2 days to complete one lesson properly, right? So students, without getting delay, let's get started. She fell upon the neck of her friend, embraced her with passion, then went away with her treasure. The day of the ball arrived. Mrs. Loisel was a great success. She was the prettiest of all, elegant, gracious, smiling, and full of joy. All the men noticed her, asked her name, and wanted to be presented. She danced with the enthusiasm, intoxicated with pleasure, thinking of nothing but all this admiration, this victory so complete and sweet to her heart. She went home towards 4 o'clock in the morning. Her husband had been half asleep in one of the little saloons since midnight with 3 other gentlemen, whose wives were enjoying themselves very much. He threw around her shoulders the modest wrap they had carried, whose poverty clashed with the elegance of the ball costume. She wished to hurry away in order not to be noticed by other women who were wrapping themselves in rich furs. Loisel detained her. Wait, she said he, I am going to call a cab, but she would not listen and descended the steps rapidly. When they were in the street, they found no carriages, and they began to seek for one. Hailing the coachman, whom they saw at a distance, they walked along towards the river. Hopeless and shivering, finally they found one of those old carriages that one sees in Paris after nightfall. It took them as far as their door, and they went wearily up to their apartment. It was all over for her, and on his part, he remembered that he would have to be at the office by 10 o'clock. She removed the wraps from her shoulders before the glass for a final view of herself. In her glory, suddenly she uttered a cry. Her necklace was not around her neck. Loisel, already half undressed, asked, What's the matter? She turned towards him excitedly. I no longer have Mrs. Forestier's necklace. He arose in dismay. What? How is that? It's not possible. And they looked in the folds of the dresses, in the folds of the cloak, in the pockets, everywhere. They couldn't find it. He asked, You are sure you still had it when we left the minister's house? Right. So now here you can see that the necklace has been lost, and so I am going to tell you the different meaning, the difficult meanings from this, right? So embraced means hold closely in one's arms, matlab gale lagana, right? Elegant means elegant. Elegant means graceful and stylish in appearance. Enthusiasm means intense and eager enjoyment. Admiration means respect. Admiration, admiration. Admiration means respect. Saloons means a reception room in a large house. Furs, furs. Furs means the short, fine, soft hair. Detained, detained. Detained. Detained means keep from proceeding by holding them back or making claims over their attention, right? And Descended means move or fall downwards. Hailing means Hailing. Hailing means fall or be heard forcefully. Right? Coachman means a driver of horse drawn carriages. घोड़ा गाड़ी का जो ड्राइवर होता है उसे. Right? Shivering means Shivering. Shivering, shaking slightly and uncontrollably. ना जब ठंड लगती हो उस समय जो सेक उठता है उसको हम लोग कहते हैं शिवरिंग. नाइटफॉल मीन्स द ऑनसेट ऑफ नाइट. इवन यू कैन ऑल्सो कॉल इट डस्क, जो उषा काल का प्रातः काल कहा जाता है, भोर वाला एकदम समय. वियरली मीन्स विथ एक्सट्रीम टायर्डनेस. राइट? वियरली मीन्स एक्सट्रीम टायर्डनेस. एंड क्लोक मीन्स CLOAK, a sleeveless outdoor overgarment that hangs loosely. Right? मतलब जो आप कहते हैं ना कि वो कपड़ा अंगरखा जिसको कि कहते हैं. So Matilda hugged her friend with affection and left for her house. The day of the party arrived and Mrs. Loisel was appreciated, and she was the prettiest, most elegant and the gracious of all. She was very happy and full of joy as all the men were noticing her, and she was happy. She was very happy with all the attentions she had gained. The couple left the party at 4 o'clock in the morning, and Mr. Loisel has already slept at 12 o'clock in one of the halls with 3 other men whose wives were also enjoying the party. Mrs. Loisel threw a wrap around her shoulders as they were about to leave. The elegance of the party dress was getting ruined by the wrap, and it was not that pretty. She wanted to leave the party quickly because she did not want the rich ladies who had wrapped themselves in a rich purse to see her in a cheap wrap. This was because she had portrayed herself as the rich lady by wearing the new dress and the diamond necklace. Mr. Loisel asked her to wait as he was calling a cab, but she was in a hurry and quickly went down the stairs. She did not want to be noticed. As they get on the street, they were looking for a carriage, but there was no carriages. And then they saw a coachman at a distance and started calling him. The coachman did not stop. They kept walking together. And the kind one finds a Paris at dusk time. The carriages took them to their home, and they both went up. By then they were extremely tired. And the happy and fun for Mrs. Loisel had ended by then, and Mr. Loisel also remembered that he had to reach his office by 10 in the morning. As she stood in front of the mirror and removed the wrap to see herself and one last time, she cried because the necklace was missing. It was not on her neck. Mr. Loisel was already half undressed by then, was almost shocked. Now she turned toward him and said that Mrs. Forestier's necklace was missing and that it might have fallen somewhere. They searched it in the folds of the dresses, the cloak, and in the pockets, but they could not find it. Mr. Loisel then asked her if she remembered having it on while they were leaving the minister's house. Now the story has turned, right? Yes, I felt it was it as we came out, but if you had lost it in the street, we should have heard it fall. It must be in the cab. Yes, it is possible. It is possible. Did you take the number? No. And you? Did you notice what it was? No. They looked at each other utterly cast down. Finally, Loisel dressed himself again. I am going, he said, over the track where we went on foot, to see if I can find it. And he went. She remained in her evening gown, not having the force to go to bed. Towards 7 o'clock, her husband returned. He had found nothing. He went to the police and to the cab offices and put an advertisement in the newspaper offering a reward. She waited all day in a state of bewilderment before this frightful disaster. Loisel returned in the evening, his face pale. He had discovered nothing. He said, "Write to your friend that you have broken the clasp of the necklace and you will have it repaired. That will give us time, she wrote as he dictated. At the end of the week, they had lost all hope and Losel, older by 5 years, declared, we must replace this jewel. In a shop of Palais Royal, they found a chaplet of diamonds which seemed to them exactly like the one they had lost. It was valued at 40,000 francs. They could get it 36,000. Losel possessed 18,000 francs, which his father had left him. He borrowed the rest. He made ruinous promises, took money from usurers and the whole race of lenders. Then he went to get the new necklace, depositing on the merchant's counter 36,000 francs. When Mrs. Losel took back the jewels of Mrs. Forestier, the latter said to her in a frigid tone, you should have returned them to me sooner, for I might have needed them. अब यहाँ पे देखिए थोड़ा सा कहानी में अब एक टर्न आ गया. टर्न का मतलब अब उन्होंने नेकलेस को खो दिया. अब उनके पास दुखी होने के अलावा दूसरा कोई ऑप्शन नहीं था. सो कुछ टफ मीनिंग को यहाँ पे नोट कर लेते हैं. राइट. सो पहले हम मीनिंग कास्ट डाउन. कास्ट डाउन CASTDOWN. कास्ट डाउन का मतलब होता है सैड. राइट. गाउन का मतलब होता है a long elegant dress worn by a formal occasion. Bewilderment means a feeling of being perplexed or confused, मतलब भ्रमित हो जाना. Frightful means very unpleasant. Clasp means to hold tightly. Dictated means state or order authoritatively. Chaplet means a garland. Right. Ruinous means disastrous. Usurers means a person who lent money at unreasonable high rates. Frigid means formal in behavior. Right. Now, Mrs. Losel said that she remembered having it on as she felt it while leaving the house of the minister. Mr. Losel said that if it would have been fallen on the street, then they would have heard sound of it falling, but they did not hear anything, which meant that it must have fallen in the cab. To this, she replied that it could be possible that what he said was right, and asked him if he noted down the number of the car. Both of them had not seen the number of the carriages. They were let down by what had just happened, and Mr. Losel dressed up again to go and look on the tracks where they were walking. She remained at home wearing her evening gown, whereas her husband went out in search of the necklace. Mr. Losel returned at 7 o'clock in the morning and announced that he had not found anything. He also went to the police and cab office asking about it and gave an advertisement about it in the newspaper, offering a reward for whoever returned it. Mrs. Losel waited for her husband the whole day, and when he returned, he announced that he had not been able to find the necklace. Mr. Losel told his wife to write to Mrs. Forestier that they had given the necklace for repairing, as the hook of the necklace had broken. So after looking it for almost a week, they decided to buy another necklace for Mrs. Forestier, as they were not able to find the original one. Then they started looking for a necklace similar to the one that they had lost, and found one in a shop at Palais Royal. The price of the necklace was 36,000 francs. With a discount of 4,000 francs, Mr. Losel had about 18,000 francs, which were given to him by his father before his death. He borrowed the rest of the money from different money lenders. He then bought a new necklace from the shop by paying the full amount. When Mrs. Losel took the necklace to her friend, her friend told her that she should have returned earlier as she too needed it. Right? असलियत तो उसे पता नहीं थी. Now, Mrs. Forestier did not open the jewel box as Mrs. Loisel feared she would. What would she think if she should perceive the substitution? What should she say? Would she take her for a robber? Mrs. Loisel now knew the horrible life of necessity. She did her part, however completely, heroically it was necessary to pay this frightful debt. She would pay it. They sent away the maid. They changed their lodgings. They rented some rooms in an attic. She learnt the odious work of kitchen. She washed the dishes. She washed the soiled linen, their cloths and dishcloths, which she hung on the line to dry. She took down the refuges of the street each morning and brought up the water, stopping at each landing to catch her breath. And clothed like a woman of the people, she went to the grocers and butchers and fruiters with her basket on her arm, shopping, haggling to last sou of her miserable money. The 1,000 work earnings putting the books some merchants in order, and nights he often did copying the 5 sous a page. And this life lasted for 10 years. At the end of 10 years, they had restored all. Mrs. Loisel seemed old now. She had become a strong, hard woman, the crude woman of the poor household. Her hair badly dressed, her skirts awry, her hands red. She spoke in a loud tone and washed the floors with large pails of water. But sometimes when her husband was at the office, she would seat herself before the window and think of that evening party, of farmer's time, of that ball where she was so beautiful and so flattered. How would it have been if she had not lost the necklace? Wood knows how singular is life and how full of changes, how a small thing will ruin or save one. One Sunday, as she was taking a walk in the Champs-Élysées to rid herself of the cares of the week, she suddenly perceived a woman walking with a child. It was Mrs. Forestier, still young, still pretty, still attractive. Mrs. Loisel was affected. Should she speak to her? Yes, certainly. And now that she had paid, she would tell her all. Why not? She approached her. Good morning, Jeannie. Her friend did not recognize her and was astonished to be familiarized just by the common personage. She stammered, "But madam, I don't know. You must be mistaken. No, I am Matilda Loisel." Her friend uttered a cry of astonishment. "Oh, my poor Matilda, how you have changed!" "Yes, I had some hard days since I saw you, and some miserable ones, and all because of you." "Because of me? How is that?" "You recall the diamond necklace that you loaned me to wear to the minister's ball?" "Yes, very well." "Well, I lost it." "How is that, since you returned it to me?" "I returned another to you exactly like it, and it has taken us 10 years to pay for it. You can understand that it was not easy for us to have nothing, but it is finished. I am decently content." Mrs. Forestier stopped short. She said, "You say that you bought a diamond necklace to replace mine?" "Yes, you didn't perceive it then. They were just alike." And she smiled with a proud and simple joy. Mrs. Forestier was touched and took up both her hands, and she replied, "Oh, my poor Matilda, mine were false. They were not worth over 500 francs. Right? अब कहानी आपको शायद समझ में आ गई होगी कि वो जो थे वो नकली थे, है ना? अब यहाँ पे थोड़ा सा टफ मीनिंग एक बार फिर से हम लोग लिख लें और फिर फाइनली लेसन तो खत्म ही हो गया। परसीव का मतलब होता है बिकम अवेयर, किसी चीज़ को जानना। सब्स्टिट्यूट का मतलब होता है इन रिप्लेसमेंट ऑफ, किसी चीज़ के बदले में। एटिक का मतलब होता है ए स्पेस इनसाइड द रूफ ऑफ अ बिल्डिंग, राइट। ऑडियस का मतलब होता है एक्सट्रीमली अनप्लीजेंट, है ना। लॉजिंग्स का मतलब होता है इट्स अ टेम्पररी अकोमोडेशन। Lodgings means it's a temporary accommodation. LODGINGS, lodgings. हैगलिंग का मतलब होता है डिस्प्यूट, है ना, इट्स अ डिस्प्यूट ओवर द कॉस्ट, राइट. SOUS, सोस मीन्स स्मॉल वैल्यू ऑफ कॉइन, ये जो है एक वैल्यू है, करेंसी है. और AWRY, आउट ऑफ द नॉर्मल पोजिशन, राइट. पर्सनेज मीन्स अ पर्सन. So her friend did not even open and check the necklace as Mrs. Lozel had expected. Mrs. Lozel has worried about what would happen if her friend came to know about the replacement of the necklace. She could blame her to be a thief. Mrs. Lozel realized how horrible life could become, and she knew that they would have to pay the loan and they had taken for the necklace at any cost. So they started to reduce their expenses and save more. They removed the maid for the job, changed their house and rented room on the roof of a building. Now she had to learn tiring and boring work of kitchen like washing dishes, cooking food. And she would wash clothes and hang them on the line of to dry. She used to go down to the street every morning to get water with the little money that she had. She used to dress like ordinary people and go a grocery shop, butcher shop and fruit shop with a basket to buy things of daily use. The husband was also in a miserable condition as he used to work extra in time of evenings and often did copying work at the night for a small amount of 5 sous a page. They did it for 10 years and paid back their debt within this period. By this time, Mrs. Lozel had become a hard-working woman of the poor household. She had started looking old with her badly kept hands red, and she used to speak in a loud voice. Many times, to feel good with her husband used to go to work, she used to sit next to the window and think about that evening, that worst evening even. She used to feel good about how beautiful and elegant she looked that day, and she would imagine about how her life would be if she would not have lost the necklace. She used to think how unpredictable life could be and how a small step could change a person's life. And now, when one day he was relieving her stress of the week, enjoying a walk at the day of champs, right? So अब आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ से कि उनकी जो लाइफ है वो कैसे बदल गई. वन डे when she was relieving herself to the stress of week, enjoying a walk along the Champs Elysees, suddenly she saw a lady walking with a child. The young, pretty and attractive lady was Mrs. Forestier, and they engaged with the communication. And Mrs. Forestier was unable to identify Mrs. Lozel, and when Mrs. Lozel introduced herself, they got familiar and they make a communication. There Mrs. Forestier was astonished because she replies that she did have some hard days since last met. She said the life had been miserable and it was all because of Mrs. Forestier, and Mrs. Forestier was shocked that why she was blaming her. Then the Matilda replied that she had bought a similar necklace and they have been paying the debt for last 10 years. So Mrs. Forestier was shocked that to hear that the necklace was made by diamond that the sea has returned, and she said that its cost was not more than 500 francs because it was artificial, it was even fake, right? So now here, students, you can understand it very well that how the story has been ended, right? How a small changes in your life, how a small step in your life can change the direction of the life, right? So, dear students, there is the moral of the lesson is that you don't need to even show off something. always stay in reality, and that will be definitely beneficial for you, my dear students. So dear students, through this the lesson has been finished. We will meet in the next video session with another lesson. So up to the time, thank you, have a nice day.